Hi everyone, and today I want to talk with you about the state, and specifically for VueJS. VueJS is kind of popular right now, so I thought, well, let's explain some things about Vue and then dive into a little bit of the state, and we're gonna check what we can do about it, what we can do with it, where does the state lives. But first, let's talk a little bit about what is the state. If people talk about the state in this time, then most of the time they will talk about some single page applications. And in the old days we had a lot of server-side rendered applications. So if you want to update it, the page with new data from the database, you needed to refresh. Well, in this time, a lot of developers build applications where the data refresh even when the page is not reloaded. So that's when we call it a single page application. So where does the state lives in the server-side rendering? Well, there is no state at the server-side rendering, because when the page is loaded, the data will be shown, well, when the page is finished with rendering and getting the data from the database. With single page applications, you will have a state where the state lives. And lives, I mean, it is temporarily stored in your browser. So that's where your state lives. So to make it even more clear, and this is not gonna be a long, funny video, this is gonna be short and really to the point. I want to show you in the way of Vue how you can show where the state is and what you can do with the state. So let's check out a very simple example. If you know Vue, then this looks very familiar. If you don't, well, then you maybe have to dive into Vue or another framework. Doesn't matter for me, but in this case I'm gonna talk about Vue. So this is a single file component, and this is for VueJS. And what we have here is the data, and your state lives here in this data function. So this data function returns a object and with a property called count. In this case, by default, the count will be 2. So we can make it 0, we can make it whatever we want. Make it 0, and you see over here in the browser, your count property will be 0. So over here I created 2 buttons, one to increment and one to decrement. So, and the count is made visible like here. Here's where your state becomes visible, and the date is 0. So over here, this was shown in the page. That's where your count variable will be visible. So if we click on increment, the method says this, and well, this refers to the component, to the data, and this .count, well, the data.count, because data is gonna return an object, and that object is this, and it has a count property. Well, over here we have a count property, and over here we do ++. So that means it will add 1 to the current value. So if we click on increment, it will increment the number. And as much as we click, it will increment. If we want to decrement, we have over here the method, and we link that to this button, decrement. And over here we have the method called decrement. And over here we use that same property from the database, from the state, and with minus minus we decrement, of course. So you see when the page, if you do decrement and reload the page, the data will be gone. So it is not saved. So every time your browser refreshed, the data will be gone. So your state will be gone. So hopefully this will make the state of a single component in Vue much more clear. If it is not, please ask me some questions in the comments and I would love to explain it to you. So hopefully see you in the next video. Bye!